What's up gamers, DreamcastGuy here, talking today about broken games, and how I think that unfortunately, they're just becoming too big of a problem to even try and ignore. 2018 has been an amazing year for gaming in general. We've gotten so many big, expansive experiences that told great stories and managed to look glorious while doing it. But along with that, we have gotten so many games that are complete dumpster fires. Things like Metal Gear Survive cannot be ignored for the mere fact that they are just so truly awful at their baseline. I mean, let's just talk about that real quick. Metal Gear Survive is full of microtransactions, plays terribly, and doesn't even connect to the rest of the universe in any meaningful way. It is a game that seemingly was built by people who didn't even want to work on it. There's no love or passion inside the project. And it's something that now, looking back on it 6 months later, is very, very striking because I'm not sure how exactly that can even happen. The reason I've been thinking about this is because I've been reading some random short stories by Stephen King, and in this book, he has a character at one point who discovers that he has the ability to write a short story, and whoever the star of it is will die. If he says that you're going to choke to death on a gumdrop, then within the next couple hours, you're going to choke to death on a gumdrop. But instead of stopping this and trying to save lives, he keeps doing it. He keeps writing these stories because he just enjoys it. As a writer, he cannot resist the temptation to create no matter the cost. Now, this is obviously a hyperbolic example, but I feel like this is true across the entire art world. If you truly believe in what you're making, you're going to keep making it no matter what it takes. This reminds me of a time where, just a couple months ago, I managed to actually sit down and talk to one of the developers of Doom. This was just a random programmer, but somebody who was actually specializing in the weapon design. And the way this guy's eyes lit up when he talked about the way that the shotgun managed to eject shells, or the fact that the frame rate of the machine gun was made to sync up with different animations like ripping the heart out of a demon, it was so incredible to see because there was so much love in this man's eyes on a fundamental level for what he was making. And I feel like that is the reason that Doom became such an amazing game, is that each member of the team was so passionate about what they were making. It didn't matter about deadlines, it didn't matter about delays. All that really came down to it is, what do we have to do to make this game 10 out of 10 perfect? But games, a lot of stuff that's coming out now especially, seem like they're more interested in just trying to be out there and land on store shelves no matter the cost. Certain stuff definitely reminds me of that, like The Division. Now, this is a rare case because it came out and was incredibly flawed, providing very weird combat and a really messed up leveling system, but over time, the developers stuck with it. They realized that they had managed to screw up, but were so passionate about their project, they kept making big DLC and big patches until eventually that game apparently became super, super great. I'm probably never going to go back and play it, but I admire the fact that they stuck with it. Other games, though, are never going to have that happen. I mean, look at the fact that freaking Marvel Vs Capcom Infinite is already completely dead. The developers just wanted that released. They did not care. And the lack of caring, I feel like, is the true systematic issue that keeps rising to the top. It seems like developers are beginning to suffer from an entire industry-wide case of burnout. So many people have been working 80 or 100-hour weeks for so long that even when they're finished with that game, maybe the next thing they start on, it just doesn't have that same fire of passion within it. Now, the reason I say that is because certain things really seem to have that. I'm about to throw a game specifically under the bus, which is Sea of Thieves. Graphically, this was a very impressive project. It did water in a way that nobody else could have, but every single ripple of the waves, as amazing as it was, didn't provide much to do. Jumping on a boat and setting sail and going to deserted islands and trying to collect loot never really had that drive to make you want to continue playing it, since there was no real progression, there was no real meaning, and there wasn't even really cool stuff to fight with. And it feels like, at a fundamental level, this was because the developers, in some part of their system, didn't really care about the project they were creating. They just thought, this is good enough. And I think that this is happening more and more. I mean, look at the fact that this week, we suddenly saw the fact that Call of Duty decided to roll out its microtransactions, which isn't a big shock. But there was an extra layer to that patch, which, along with introducing the crappy microtransactions and loot crates, decided to, for some reason, completely rework how the servers worked, and now it's a complete mess. Just trying to have a steady online game with a couple of your buddies is downright impossible. And it makes me kind of scratch my head and think, who messed this up? Was the developer there? Was the director there? Or is this just a publisher deciding to cut the budget of a project that's already out? So many times, I think that there is a growing problem with the idea of games just being there to print money, where it doesn't matter what it takes. You can lock people in a room and chain them to their desk as long as they manage to hit that projected deadline. And that's just such a messed up way to look at it. And I want to say that this is not just giant AAA releases. I'm sent about 20 different random indie games every single week, and I actually think it's important to try and play them. So what I do is, at the end of every day, I try and install one of them or two of them and play them for a couple of minutes just to see what's going on the independent side of development. And this has led to me discovering some really great stuff like Sinner, Sacrifice, or Redemption, and really cool indie RPGs that kind of melted my brain. But a majority of these are completely mess. I mean, they're literally just shredded lines of code that don't even function. And so many of these, the developers very clearly, in my opinion, don't care. They're just going to throw it out there and see if maybe somebody makes a review or makes a let's play and they make $10 off it. I think that this really is boiling down to the fact that so many of these people now are trying to get into the business for all the wrong reasons. Now, I'm not telling you to go harass a freaking game developer or anything like that, but I am saying that I do think that within this industry, there are now people who just don't care. Whether it be giant people way at the top who are spending the millions of dollars to make these games without understanding what they are, or just the random bug testers who completely avoid actually looking at some of the major problems of their game and instead just allowing it to be released. Seriously, if you want an example of this, just look at Fallout 76, a game that should have been an absolute masterpiece. This week they've been doing a big beta where basically anybody who's pre-ordered the game is allowed to play the full experience, wander around, collect loot, craft guns, play with your buddies, and guess what? It is really weird. The game's core gameplay is alright, and shooting zombies and stuff is fun, but it's constantly going down to single-digit frame rates when it's not hard crashing. How is this even possible? A studio that has like $80 billion and has made so many freaking classic games like Skyrim is deciding to set out and make something like this, and it's just a freaking sloppy pile of glitches. And I feel like stuff like this is really just becoming more and more prevalent. Instead of becoming less common, it's becoming more common because so many people are worried about hitting that next big release date. Fallout 76 will probably be awesome at some point, but it's going to need months and months of work to actually get there. And it kind of depresses me because something like that deserves to be immaculate. Bethesda, in my opinion, is arguably one of the greatest studios ever. Yes, it's true that a lot of their games launch buggy, but they know a lot about story and writing and crafting a narrative to make you care. That's not an easy thing to do. It takes so much passion and artistic vision to make, but more and more, those games just seem to be completely missing. I guess, in a way, what's really kind of aggravating me is the fact that I miss when games just worked, where you put a disc in, you played it, and whether it was good or whether it was bad, you could understand what they were trying to do to it. Right now, I'm secretly playing Red Dead Redemption 2 for review, and it's very interesting to go into this world because you can tell that every part of it has a point. Getting pelts lets you make armor. Getting different bullet parts makes it where you can customize your guns. And going out and collecting bounties is about more than just getting money. It's about improving the world that they've made. This is a time to celebrate, where every game manages to be so big and so cool. But along those fringes, we're seeing a rise of completely broken games. I'm hoping that 2019 somehow becomes better, but right now, I'm honestly quite terrified because I want to see all this big stuff coming over the horizon be as good as it possibly can be. But at this point, I'm not really sure it's going to be. But what do you think about this? Are you worried about the fact that we're getting so many broken games lately, or is this something that you think is just a fluke? Maybe it's the fact that it's just that we're getting more games, so of course we're going to have more stuff broken, but I still don't quite see it that way. But seriously, tell me your thoughts in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all and keep dreaming. Alright, I'm gonna go keep reading this because it's freaking me out and I love being scared. And Stephen King is a messed up mofo. Oh, hey, I was just playing a little bit of Grand Theft Auto on my Darth Vader PSP. Are you curious what I'm going to come out with next? Well, if you click this button, you'll be subscribed to be the first to know. Also, if you click over here and here, you can see my latest review and my latest top 10. I promise, it was super good. Or it was really bad and I'm sure you can just make fun of me in the comments. Either way, it'll be a lot of fun. Thanks so much for watching.